Today I'm going to show you how to do this text animation with Blender and Geometry nodes. I'm a guy that have been working a lot with After Effects and I know how to do this in After Effects. However, I thought, why we don't try to do it in Blender? So that's the reason I'm going to show you how to do it in Blender. So you can see that you can do it with programs like Blender instead of After Effects. So let's do it. First of all, let's delete the light because we are not going to use. Go to Geometry nodes and create a new profile. And let's start creating the main text using a string to curve. Let's connect it here, and let's try something like, for example, Blender. So here we can see the text. Now, let's select this view, and let's press Ctrl-Alt-0. So we can set up already the camera in this view, and we don't have to move the text. The only thing we have to do is to center the text. Selecting center, and here, middle. Okay, so this will be the text. And now let's give a mesh to this text. So let's use curve to mesh. And let's use curve cycle. And let's decrease this, something like, for example. And now let's add a material. With set material, select the default material, and let's make it a midline. So let's go to this view. Now this one, and select emission and increase this, and then go to render and activate. Perfect. Now what I want is to make different copies of this. By the way, this text will be the stroke text because it doesn't have the fill. So let's call this a stroke text. Now let's create different copies of this text. For example, in this axis, the green axis. To do this, what we're going to do is to use this as instance. So let's use a curved line and let's connect it, for example, here. Let's just connect this, connect it here. We can see this line and I want to set it in this axis. So let's press 0 to see the camera. And for example, what I want is to have from here to here. So 3 cubes, 1, 2, 3, and 3 at the top. So let's select 3 and minus 3. And here 0. So we have the line here. Perfect. Now let's use this line to add instance of this text. So let's use instance on points. And as an instance, we are going to use this text. And now we have two copies of this text because a single line have only the start and the end. So if you want more copies of this text, we need to add resample curve. And now we have 10 texts because we have 10 points. So here you can control the number of texts. I'm going to select 5. So we have one in the middle. Now, if you want to increase the size of the text without increasing the size of the line, then let's go to text and increase this number. So let's increase this more or less, something like that. And we have this text, maybe a little less, like this. Perfect. And now the only thing we need to do is to create a text that have the fill and then animate it from the top to the bottom. So to do this, what we're going to do is a copy of this instance. But we are not going to do a copy of this because this will be the main source of the text. So let's do, for example, let's take a wire and add a fill curve. And let's copy this with Shift D and connect it here. And let's reuse this. So I'm going to move this here, and this one here. And now let's connect this here. And let's join these two texts. So let's use join geometry. Let's add it here and connect it here. So now we have the same text, but with a fill. Because this, if I mute this, you can see is making the text field. So let's call this field text. So you can see it's the same. This is the same like this, and they share the same line and the same text. Now, how we do to only show one text? To do this, we need to play with the selection of this instance. So what we're going to do is to use here index, and now it's going to delete only the first one, the number 0, and show the others. So what we have to do is to use equal, and now use the index, so it's only selecting the index that is equal to 0. So we are using the index information, the attribute, and selecting the number 0, because we are using the math node equal as a boolean. So if we click here, we can jump to the next text, as you can see. And after this, it jumps to the next, but we don't have more text. So we can play with this, and now, how we can loop this? So after the last one, it comes back to the first one. To do this, it's really easy. The only thing we have to do is to use here a math node and select floret modulo. So with this, for example, I'm going to select integer. I have a tutorial showing how this node works. If you want to see it, you can check it in this tutorial. But basically, this allows you to repeat a pattern. So we define a number. For example, now what we want is after 5 numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here we need to add the number of copies, 5. This is going to repeat the number. So this is like clicking here, is the same, but thanks to this, so instead of continuing after number 4, and we cannot see anything, the number 5, thanks to this, will be the number 0 again. So let's check it. 0 is this one, the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and now is the key. It repeats again, thanks to this, because this is saying, hey, every 5 numbers start again the pattern. So if we animate this, you can see we can create this animation. You can add keyframes here, or what you can do is to use a scene time. And if we press play, every second it's going to change a text. If it's too slow, what you can do is to add frames, and then will be too fast. But if you want, for example, every 10 frames, show a text, then we need to divide this by 0.1, because now it's showing one text every frame. So let's reduce this 10 times with a math node. We can divide it by 10 if you want, or just multiply it by 0.1. And now it's showing every 10 frames, because we are multiplying by this number, one text. So if I come back here, you can see that the first 10 frames, the text is the same. And after 10, it jumps to the next one, as you can see. So if I press play, I have this animation. If you want to make it faster, then increase this number. And if you want to make it slower, you can decrease it. Or remember, you can use divide, and it's the same. If you divide it by 10, you have the same animation. By the way, remember that this node is the number of the words that we have. Now we have 5. So we have 5 words. But this number has to be the same as this number to loop the animation. Because, for example, if you want to change the number of the words, let's say I want 6, and you don't update this number, then the animation will be until the number 5, as you can see right now. And we don't reach the number 6. So remember always, if you change the number of the words, to change this number to work perfectly. However, if you are lazy and you want to make it everything automatic, what you can do is, for example, to control this number and this number with one input. For example, let's move this here and let's control this with an integer. So let's bring an integer, and this integer will be the number of words. So now we have 6. As you can see, this is working. And let's connect this to here. So now we won't have any problem. For example, if I select 3, after the number 3, it should repeat again. Let's check it. And it works perfectly. With 4, 5, 6, etc. And if you want to loop all the cycle, all the duration of your composition, the only thing you have to do, remember, for example, now I'm using every 10 frames show a word. So what you can do is, for example, if I have 6 words, then calculate 6 times 10 times. So, for example, this should be 60. So after 60, it starts again. So one thing I could do is to select here in N 60. So when this reaches this number, we can loop this animation. Or you can multiply this number by 2 if you want to make it longer. So it should be 120 if you want to make it longer. And if you have, for example, 5 words, then we need to do the same. It should be, for example, 50 to loop the animation, and we can select 100, 150, 200, etc. So in theory, if we select 250, it should be perfectly looped with 5 words. So as you can see, when we reach at the end, it starts again to the first one. So with this number, 5 and 250, you can export this animation, and later you can make it longer and will be perfectly looped. And remember, in any moment, first of all, we can change the color if you want. Let's select, by the way, let's go to render view and let's make the background dark. I'm going to hide everything and let's select another color, for example, maybe this one, and make it more glow. And what I was saying is that now that we have everything connected, in any moment, we can update this text, as you can see right now. So whatever you write is going to be updated and everything is going to work perfectly. So as you can see, we achieved the same animation in After Effects in Blender thanks to Geometry Nodes. So I hope you learned something new, and if you like this video, give a like, subscribe, and you can download this project and many more on my Patreon. And see you in the next video.